Thanks for tuning me in. I'm going to speak on a very, very difficult subject, and that is when a man gets abused. You know what the toughest thing is in dealing with that? Is when no one believes you. When no one believes that you, a man, more to the point, a black man, are the victim of abuse in a relationship, it just leads and lends more to a series that I'm going to embark on within this diary called Are You Ever Allowed to Have a Bad Day? In this case, never, because men are supposed to be the abusers and not the abusees. Now, let me make a clarification. In no way, shape, form, or fashion am I saying that it happens to men all the time. Hell, I know many a woman who has been through abuse in a relationship. My God, do I ever. But I want to talk about the point where a man gets abused. And when a man gets abused, it's usually met with a lot of scorn. If you want to think about it honestly, it's met with a lot of humor, a lot of sarcastic humor, and it's met with a lot of ridicule. You know why it's met with a lot of ridicule? Because it's in many eyes, not in many ways, but in many eyes, it is just not supposed to happen. Well, it does happen. And it happened to me. In 2015, I met a young lady when I was already going through emotional abuse living with a roommate. I met a young lady who I thought was the one. I really did. I really thought I was in love. I should have known from the first meeting that all kinds of red flags were showing up. That she was taking her abuse out on me. I didn't bother to see it. I didn't bother to think about it at the time because, as I said, I thought she was the one. Over time, I would be proven wrong many, many times over. There are so many incidents that I could talk about within this, but I'll just expose a few because I don't want to be on here long, but I want to tell a story. One of the most horrific abusive incidents I went through was on my birthday, 2015. And it began great. began great. I got cupcakes. I got invited to all kinds of stuff. But then the young lady that I was seeing left for a while. Come to find out, she went to visit her ex. And whatever she went through with him, whatever argument she had with him, came back on me. And that was the first time she hit me. I didn't realize how deep I was in until then. She had shown me many signs before then, and I stupidly ignored them all. And yes, I said that aloud. I stupidly ignored them all. I ignored my gut feeling. Don't ever do that, gentlemen. When you meet someone and they show you who they are, trust your gut. With this young lady, I didn't know what I was getting myself into. Then later, I'll back up. I'll back up before then. I'll back up a little bit before then. We had gone to lunch. We had gone to lunch, and she had just been berating me and berating me and berating me the entire 90 minutes. And I wanted a way out. I wanted a way to get the hell away from her as fast as I could. Well, she was complaining about the way the place looked where we went for lunch. And my stomach didn't feel too hot, so that gave me a little bit of an idea. And I feigned food poisoning. I feigned food poisoning, and I got out of there as fast as I could. There was another time where a fellow I had invited out to do a radio show with me, we hung out at a graduation, and I thought all was good. I'll come back to that in a little bit. Then there was another time where she and my ex-roommate decided to team up against me, and the emotional abuse that was poured on me over money, over money. The emotional abuse that was poured on against me was horrible. That's the only word I can come up with right now. That's the only word I can come up with. I didn't know what I had gotten myself into. Matter of fact, we were out at lunch one day, and she called one of her exes, and her ex tried to warn me, and I stupidly looked the other way. You say that doesn't happen to men? Oh, yes, it does. I'm one of the men where it happened to. It doesn't just happen to women, it happens to men too. You know what the problem is? Men are told not to tell. Men are told not to speak on it. Men are told not to say anything. Men are told to just speak, to just keep quiet and just pray and hope that it all goes away. Well, what if it doesn't go away? What if it keeps on happening? What if it gets worse? You may wind up in the hospital or dead. Young lady and I got an apartment together. I signed all the paperwork. I put the deposit down. And then we were decorating one night, and she hit me again. And I should have known from the first time she hit me that that one time was too much. I should have known. I didn't. I didn't catch the clue. And I'll happily admit I didn't catch the clue. I will happily admit I did not catch on to what was going on. I didn't. I didn't know what the hell was happening. I didn't know what the hell was being done to me. What makes it even wilder is that I kept sticking around. I kept sticking around when everything within me, every atom inside of me said, get away. The night of my birthday, which I've already spoken about, so many nights at the hotel where we would stay, and I wound up getting a sponsor for the high school I was covering, and she was using up the 10 gratis nights that the hotel granted me in a trade. Finally, one night, I had gotten so verbally and emotionally beat up that I ran back to that same hotel in LaPorte, Indiana, and a front desk clerk whom I was very familiar with recognized what was going on and found a room for me to hide in for about 5 days. And believe me, she kept coming by. Lady I was dating kept coming by looking for me. I'm just glad I was able to get food and drink and things sent to my room. And I was able to pull myself together after that. Beyond that, I went and hid in Michigan City for about a month. It was the only place where I could think of to hide. Where she wouldn't find me. Because I kept remembering her saying she didn't like Michigan City. So I found a hotel right next to an expressway, and I hid there. I hid there for a while. Finally able to get myself together. Then came November of 2015 when I was in a McDonald's in LaPorte, Indiana. And I had just found out that my little girl, Donna, had passed away. Found out through social media, as a matter of fact, because that's a whole nother story. That's a whole nother chapter. I didn't realize how off I was mentally until my spider senses went completely off and kicked in a moment too late when I looked up and I saw this young lady walking toward me. I've already been in a pool full of tears. I've been trying to work through the pain, and she acted concerned and said, "What's the matter? What happened?" And I said, "My daughter had died." You know what her response to me was? I quote, "I don't want to talk about that. I want to talk about business." Because at the time I had her involved in my broadcasting business, and that's a mistake I will never repeat. Fortunately, the woman that I have now wants to be involved and wants to do things the right way. But back in 2015, I didn't know any better. I honestly did not know any better. And then the coup de grace, a week before Christmas, 2015. Well, let me back up a week before that. I had a doubleheader to do one Saturday in December. One game in LaPorte, one in Michigan City. The fellow who was supposed to be my best friend at the time, I called him and just unloaded and spoke about everything that was going on, everything that was happening. And he asked me to come get him. And I was already at the school where I needed to be in LaPorte. When he asked me to come get him, that made my spider senses go completely berserk. And for once, I paid attention because I knew something goofy was going on. Something began to click. Boy, did it ever click. Because as it turns out, and as I found out a week after that, I went to see her in LaPorte in the apartment that I signed for, that she since took over. She took over and brought me my stuff and said, I hope you understand why I'm doing this. And at that point, my spider senses really went off, and I just stayed quiet, paid attention, and I left. After that came the phone call that they revealed they were in a relationship. I had essentially been double crossed by two people I trusted. Not to mention it was coupled with the point that they said they were getting married. And this is after she presented me with a ring. Figure that out. I kid you not. This is after she presented me with a ring and wanted to marry me. Oh, that's when all hell broke loose. Inside my mind and inside LaPorte. I couldn't go back. I didn't go back. The only other game I did for the school I covered in LaPorte was a week after I found out what I found out. Which is the young lady and my former best friend had gotten together behind my back. And until recently, I've never gotten over that. But men, do you know when you're being abused? More often than not, you don't. And I'm not saying that to be facetious. I'm saying that because it's the truth. You don't know. Because when you're with somebody, you expect them to treat you as well as you treat them. And when they don't, it kind of sucker punches you. Because it sure as hell sucker punched me. It sure as hell sucker punched me. And I never forgot it. It led me down a dark, dark path for about 2.5 years, where I wanted to get even with a lot of people, where I wanted to cause the pain instead of being in pain. Anybody ever been there? I didn't realize that one person in one situation would wreck me the way that situation and that person or those people did wreck me. I never thought I would go through anything like that. 2015 was a very, very dark year for me, especially relationship wise. I didn't know what I was going through. I didn't realize what I was going through. Hell, I didn't realize what was happening and why it was happening and what caused it to happen. I didn't know any of that. I didn't get any of it. I didn't get it. I didn't get any of it. I didn't understand. I won't understand. Maybe that's the maybe that's the reason I had to go through all that. Maybe that's why. Maybe, just maybe, maybe that's the reason. That maybe that's the main reason. And you're right, Maggie. I held out hope for the longest that it will get better, that the hurt will stop, that the abuse would stop, that everything would just stop, that everything would just quit. With that unfortunate time in my life came, oh, I'm sorry. I wound up messing this up when I closed out. Well, with that unfortunate time in my life, 3 years later came the most fortunate time in my life when I met the woman who would save my life. That's tomorrow on Diary of a Mad Snowman. Good night, folks.